3 spine-chilling true nighttime terrors revealed, sinister stories that haunt your dreams. In the heart of a picturesque suburban neighborhood just outside Chicago, peace hung like a phantom in the cool night air, but lurking beneath those tranquil streets was a darkness that twisted at the edges of reality. For Sarah, a 34-year-old nurse and single mother, every night shift was a plunge into an abyss that seemed to cloak her home in shadows. Little did she know, her children, Jeremy and Lily, had already ventured too far into that darkness, a darkness that carried the chilling whispers of 2 vanished families, a haunting reminder that even the perfect lawns hid terrible secrets. It started innocently enough. Text messages from Nora, a neighbor she barely knew. "I'd love to keep an eye on the kids while you work," they chirped, dripping in well-meaning cheer. Sarah welcomed the help with a sigh of relief. But soon, eerie undertones crept into the exchanges, making her stomach twist. Strange occurrences began to thrum through her home while the sky turned black, toys rearranged themselves, giggles echoed hauntingly through the hall at absurd hours, and one misty evening, a plate of cookies appeared on the porch adorned with sprinkles, yet not a single note accompanied the gift. Who had left them? The thought felt like ice running down her spine. Before Sarah could grasp the implications, she discovered the appalling truth: the district had its share of families who vanished without a trace, swallowed whole by the very neighborhood that smiled back at her every day. Panic wove itself into Sarah's chest, as her fingers trembled over her phone. Each message from Nora pulsed with a menace that made her heart race. "Your children play so well together," it read, but Sarah felt the weight of distorted familiarity tainting those words like an unshakable chill. "Don't leave them alone at night, Sarah. They already know your darkest secrets." Those words blared from her screen as she clutched the phone, breath hitching in disbelief. How did Nora know? The shadows in the house lengthened, stretching ominously as her children described a friend, an imaginary playmate that whispered from the corners of the dark. "They promised to keep it a secret. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen." Now let's continue. The longer Sarah lingered in uncertainty, the more haunting the laughter seemed. Hallucinations danced within her, forcing her to question her sanity. Maybe it was just exhaustion, the weight of sleepless nights robbing her clarity. But the house seemed alive, breathing around her, the walls echoing sinister intent. Jeremy's innocent eyes, wide with wonder, became mirrors of her own unshakable fear. What if her children were taken too? She tried to convince herself those were just silly stories the kids conjured, but terror thrummed at the base of her skull as she penned the words that might save them. Yet the air thickened, and she heard the soft, taunting giggles creeping closer. What if true horror awaited her beyond the facade of familiar smiles? Those neighbors, those sweet-faced specters, could very well be harbingers of destruction, waiting in the dark for the final act of the play. Sarah's heart raced as she silently begged the universe for guidance. And just as she felt a fleeting flicker of hope, the house flickered too, casting long, twisted shadows that whispered her name. Would she be able to unravel the sinister plot before it closed around her family? The unknown loomed larger than her fears, ready to engulf her whole. The night deepened, pressing down on Sarah like a suffocating blanket. Every creak of the floorboard sent her heart into overdrive. Jeremy and Lily had been tucked into bed, but sleep felt like a distant dream for her. Every corner of the house seemed alive, a silent conspirator in a malevolent scheme. She rubbed her temples, trying to banish the dread clawing at her insides. "Mommy? Can we keep playing with our friend?" The small, innocent voice of Lily broke through the silence, startling Sarah. She hesitated, taking a deep breath, steadying herself before approaching her daughter's room. "No, sweetie," Sarah said softly, her voice barely above a whisper. "Time to sleep." The flicker of the lamp revealed Lily's innocent face framed by shadows. "But we don't want to be alone," she pleaded. At that moment, a chill swept through the room, wrapping tight around Sarah like a predator's embrace. He's really fun. He tells us stories. With every word, the sensation of ice settled deeper in her bones. Who, honey? Who tells you stories? His name is Ben, Lily said, her eyes wide with the thrill of a secret kept. He plays with us when you're gone. A tremor shot up Sarah's spine. Ben. The name curled around her mind like a snake, conjuring images of all those vanishings. Lily, listen to me. Is he here right now? The room went cold, and the air turned thick with silence. Suddenly, Jeremy chimed in, his face alight. He's just playing hide and seek, Mommy. He's hiding in the closet. The closet door. Sarah's eyes darted toward it. The door stood ajar, shadows spilling out like a secret too dark to be contained. Jeremy, she said, forcing calm into her voice, you and Lily need to stay in bed. Right now. But, Mommy. Lily protested as she swung her legs out of bed, drawn towards the closet like a moth to the flame. Stay where you are. Sarah shouted, her heart pounding. The children froze, their excited faces slowly morphing into confusion, then fear. The shadows deepened, almost breathing with anticipation. Mommy, let us play with him. Jeremy urged, his voice rising in excitement, dragging his sister along with him. He's so much fun. He told us secrets about the neighbors. Bile rose in Sarah's throat. Secrets? What kind of secrets? Every fiber of her being fought the urge to scream. We're not playing with anyone. That's enough. The children exchanged glances. A sense of something unending flickered between them, a bond she couldn't comprehend. The giggles began again, soft and insistent, reverberating from the tiny, dark space of the closet. They echoed in a disturbing tune, one that felt too alive, too eager. Mommy. Jeremy leaned closer, his voice trembling now. Ben says you're hiding secrets too. He knows about the dark things you don't want us to see. Sarah's blood ran cold, a cold sweat broke out on her brow. What did he say? Lily chimed in, her voice a haunting whisper. He knows who vanished. He said he'll come for us when you're gone. Fear clawed at Sarah's chest, making it hard to breathe. No. No, he won't, she insisted, even as the laughter broke free, rolling through the air like waves on shore. Her eyes locked onto the closet, where darkness seemed to thrum with a heart of its own. This was becoming something more sinister than her mind could fathom, reality twisting as terror enveloped her thoughts. Stay here. She darted to the closet, pushing against its wooden door, but it was as if something pressed from within, holding it shut. Mommy, the children echoed, fear creeping into their voices, as the laughter morphed, becoming something deeper, darker. The shadows swayed, dancing as if alive, whispering secrets meant only for Sarah. She took a staggering step back, heart racing. What was she fighting against? What if Ben was real? Only a heartbeat later, the lights flickered, plunging the room into darkness, and in that darkness, she felt the grip of unseen hands. Mommy, her breath hitched. What would she sacrifice to keep her children safe? Would she unravel the mystery, or would she too become another lingering shadow in this twisted neighborhood? The answer lay just beyond the twisted door, where nightmares awaited in silence. What had she awakened? The darkness thickened, a living thing that clung to Sarah like a heavy fog. She felt it pressing in, slicing through the thin fabric of her sanity. The laughing grew louder, filling the void where reason once resided. It wasn't just kids' giggles anymore, it twisted into something grotesque, twisted. Stay close. She shouted, her voice raw and frantic. She turned, her eyes wide, seeking comfort in the faces of her children. But their stares held no warmth, only the flicker of something sinister. They didn't blink. They just stared at the closet, as if mesmerized by the terror hiding within. Ben is waiting for you, Mommy, Lily said, her voice unnaturally calm. Don't say that. Don't say his name. Panic surged through Sarah, and she pressed her palms against her ears, desperate to drown out the dark sound of youth turned sinister. The closet seemed to pulse, breathing in time with her quickening heartbeat. Shadows twisted along the walls, like lost souls searching for a way out. You are so funny, Mommy. Jeremy laughed, but the sound was hollow. The giggles morphed, becoming taunts that curled through Sarah's mind, infecting her thoughts like poison. Stop it. She screamed, and a wave of silence crashed over the room. The laughter faded, replaced by an expectant hush that made her skin crawl. Please, just be quiet. She could barely think. The weight of fear pressed heavy against her chest. We need to get away from here, she muttered, stepping backward, drawn back toward the safety of the hallway light. But everywhere she turned, darkness followed. Mommy, we want to go play. The children's voices echoed like a haunting melody, tugging at her sanity, suffocating her resolve. Her fingers trembled as she gestured toward the door. We're leaving, she announced. We are going out right now. But deep down, dread gnawed at her. The doorway loomed like an abyss, and she didn't know what awaited her beyond it. Ben wants to keep playing, Jeremy said, an unsettling smile stretching across his small face. He says it's more fun when you're scared. No. She screamed. In a sudden rush, Sarah lunged forward, determined to yank the door open. But as she reached for the handle, a cold breath kissed her neck, followed by a raspy whisper that sent chills skittering down her spine. Stay with us, she froze, paralyzed. It wasn't just the children's voices. Something darker overshadowed them, and her insides churned as the weight of presence wrapped around her heart. With a will forged in fear, she yanked the closet door wide open. An empty abyss stared back, beckoning her closer with its sinuous shadows. What do you want? She whimpered into the dark. A whisper cascaded through the air, heavy with sinister intimacy. To play. The children giggled sweetly, their eyes alight with anticipation, but the darkness loomed behind them, its hunger palpable. Shadows curled up from the floor, reaching for Sarah like slender fingers, urgent and hungry. Gathering her strength, she grabbed the kids' hands, pulling them back. No, she urged, we need to. Suddenly, it felt as if the world tilted beneath her. The room around them swayed, as if reality warbled. A monstrous laughter erupted from the closet, echoing around the walls, a cruel chorus that pulled her under. Mommy, can we play with Ben? Jeremy's voice rang out again, devoid of the innocence it once held. No. No. The air crackled, sharp and malevolent. The children ducked back into the shadows, feasting on the darkness that had wrapped around Sarah. Their bodies began to shift, elongating, twisting in ways they shouldn't. Mommy, join us, it's fun. With every blink, the children's eyes lost their spark, replaced by hollow voids that reflected nothing. They were becoming something else. Sarah staggered backward, horror consuming her as she whispered, what am I supposed to do? What is this? The laughter crescendoed, a mad symphony of amusement that echoed in her brain, each note slashing deeper than the last. The temperature dropped, freezing her breath in the air. Icy fingers brushed against her arm. She felt it, something lurking just out of sight, a shape growing behind her, vast and terrible. And then, just at the edge of perception, it grinned. Mommy, come play. Sarah gasped as she turned to face the shadow, dread clawing at her throat. She had to make a choice, to step into the unknown or flee into madness. What if Ben wasn't just a game? What if he was something worse? And then, in the depths of the closet, a small voice interjected, one colder than all the rest, we're waiting for you. The darkness came alive, swirling like a tempest in the corner of the room, creeping into every cranny of her mind. Sarah's heartbeat thundered in her ears, drowning out her children's insistent pleas. Mommy, come play. The voice was syrupy sweet, yet it dripped with menace. Ben. Was he really here, or was it all just a sick trick of her imagination? Panic clawed at her insides, but she couldn't afford to show fear. Not now. Not when the shadows were already stirring. Her grip on the children tightened. "We need to leave, right now." Jeremy's face twisted, his youthful features morphing further into something unrecognizable. "But Mommy, Ben will be sad if we don't play with him." The words dripped off his tongue like poison, and her heart sank. "Stop!" she shouted, horrified at how their voices overlapped, how they spoke as if they were being controlled from some unseen place. "You're not my children anymore." But they only snickered, their laughter wrapping around her like a suffocating blanket. The closet shifted, its darkened mouth deepening as if it were breathing. She stepped backward, feeling the wall bump against her shoulders. She had nowhere to go. "Doesn't Mommy want to have fun?" Lily cooed, her tiny hands reaching out, fingers dancing in the air. "Ben says there are games you will love." The shadow behind them writhed, and a chill swept through the room. It whispered to her, a sibilant sound that slithered into her ears. "Join us, Sarah, it's what you've always wanted." "Shut up. Just shut up," she screamed, desperate to drown out the sinister seduction that lingered. With a sudden spark of defiance, she turned to run, dragging the kids behind her, seeking the fractured light of the hallway. But as they stumbled forward, the shadows flicked like hungry tongues. A fog curled around their ankles, slowing their strides, making her feel heavy and trapped. The walls began to close in, the air thick with dread. "Mommy, you're not leaving us." Jeremy's voice stretched thin, whimper-coated in laughter. "We're just starting the game." "Game." The word echoed, mocking, filling the air with an intensity that felt like shards of glass in her throat. Suddenly, a low growl reverberated from the depths of the closet, and Sarah turned on her heel, eyes wide with terror. The shape inside twisted further, stretching impossibly large. A figure took form, a blend of dark and light, features shifting like smoke. "Playtime is waiting, Mommy," it crooned, head tilting in a grotesque way that made Sarah's skin crawl. She willed her body to move, but her legs felt like stone, rooted to the ground. "Listen to Ben." The children's voices rang out, harmonizing with the dark figure's taunts. "He wants to have fun with you. Forever." Sarah squeezed her eyes shut, tears spilling down her cheeks. This couldn't be happening. She could still fight. As she opened her eyes, the children stood silent, their forms merging with the darkness, eyes wide but devoid of emotion. The figure smiled a sickening, toothy grin that stretched far too wide. "You can't leave," it said, licking its lips, anticipation buzzing in its tone. "Your fun is just beginning." In that moment, Sarah finally understood. The game wasn't with the children at all. It was with the very essence of their souls, a twisted trap designed to ensnare her. Then, an icy gust swept through the room. An otherworldly howl echoed in the distance, an answer from beyond. The walls trembled, and the light flickered ominously. "What happens if I win?" she whispered, her voice trembling. But deep down, she feared the answer. "Winning is for losers, Mommy," the shadow grinned wider, the abyss behind growing more profound. "You're one of us now." As the world around her began to fade, Sarah took one last, desperate look at her children. Two lightless forms staring with unyielding focus. Then everything plunged into darkness, and she could feel the laugh of the entity curling around her. What would it take to break free from this nightmare? Sarah felt the walls of the room pulse around her, a sickening heartbeat echoing a rhythm of despair. Her children's silhouettes merged with the shadowy figure, their laughter ringing hollow. It twisted and curled, mixing feelings of warmth and dread, pulling her deeper into its thrall. "Mommy, you should join us." Jeremy's voice bubbled, a chilling mockery layered beneath. It felt alien, as if the connection she fought so hard to maintain had unraveled in an instant. "Don't let him play alone," he said. "You could be with us forever." The entity released a low, rasping sigh, the corners of its mouth stretching wider. "Yes, forever, such a sweet bond we can create together," it purred, breathless and dark. It was a predator, luring its prey with seductive promises. Desperate, Sarah pushed against the cold shadows that threatened to engulf her. "No. I won't let you take them. In a furious rush of defiance, she tore herself free of their grasp, her body fueled by sheer survival instinct. She ran, propelled by terror and love, clinging to the memories of bedtime stories and laughter that felt worlds away. But the darkness was a living thing, surging after her. The hallway stretched endlessly, warped and twisted, filled with doors that appeared and disappeared like mirages. She darted to the right and then left, each step heavy with dread as whispers chased her. Join us, Sarah, we can play for eternity. Rounding a corner, she stumbled into a room filled with spectral light. It flickered like dying fireflies, illuminating a warped mirror that reflected distorted images of her family. Laughter echoed off the walls, calling her name in a chorus of corrupt familiarity. Look, Mommy. We're waiting. Sarah's breath hitched as she saw her children, their eyes wide but blank. Shadows danced behind them, twisting shapes that undulated like smoke. The familiarity of the room twisted into something nefarious. No. She gasped, stepping back. There was something behind her, a cold, iron grip on her shoulder. The figure loomed closer, its face unreadable, yet its smile grew wider. Why deny what's meant to be? Because you're a monster. She retorted, fierceness igniting within her. You're not my children. But the horror only laughed, a sound so cruel that it reverberated through her bones. They're mine now. Forever. Just as you will be. With one final surge of strength, Sarah turned her back on the mirror, fighting her instinct to turn around. The screams of her children echoed, their soft pleas morphing into wails that pierced her heart. The agony of leaving them behind cut deep, a wound that threatened to bleed her dry. She pressed on, navigating this hellish maze, each step probing deeper into the abyss. The shadows danced around her, curling and creeping, lusting for her surrender. But she couldn't give in. Not now. As she stumbled into another room, a strange calm washed over her, an eerie stillness. The air thickened, and beneath that surface calm, she could feel the power of the presence gathering once more. The walls pulsed, arching inwards, drawn into the dark figure at the center. Do you feel it, Mommy? It hissed. The certainty of your fate. The inevitable moment when you will embrace what you have always wanted. Sarah felt small and lost, but a flicker of determination ignited in her heart. I will fight until my last breath. She shouted defiantly. And then a blinding light erupted from deep within her, a warmth that pushed back against the darkness. The shadows recoiled, hissing in fury. What is this? The entity's voice trembled, uncertainty lacing its tone. But was it enough? That question loomed, a whispering demon that begged to be answered. Would her defiance last? The shadows began to close in around her once more, but she stood firm, infusing that blinding light with all her love, her fear, her despair and hope. As the room filled with brilliance, she whispered to the darkness, You won't win. But as the light pulsated, threatening to drown the shadows completely, the laughter came once again, playful and maddening. We'll see about that, Mommy. What other terror awaited her in the depths of this nightmare? The light pulsed, flickering like a dying flame caught in a gale. Sarah could feel the shadows slinking back momentarily, yet their hissing grew louder, feeding off her fear. Walls trembled as if sharing in her mounting dread, the room warping and shifting, pulling her in a million directions at once. Stay strong, she murmured to herself, though each word was swallowed by the ravenous darkness. But then the laughter morphed again, sharp and biting. You think you can escape us, Sarah? We are part of you. Images flickered in her mind, the sweetness of her children's faces, the warmth of their hugs. The corners of the room seemed to mock her, reflecting back those precious moments in the most grotesque forms, reminding her of the stakes. With each heartbeat, the dark figure grew bolder, seeping into her consciousness like a toxic poison. Join your children, Sarah. You miss them, don't you? Your beautiful, obedient children, just waiting for you. No. Her voice was a desperate rasp. They are not your toys. But the shadows clawed at her thoughts, whispering sweet lies, seducing her sanity. Bring balance to your family. Embrace the joy of forever. Desperation clawed at her insides. Her light flickered under the weight of the entity's words. They need me. I want to forsake them. Forsake. The entity's voice oozed into her ears, curling around her like serpents. You're the one forsaking them. You are the reason they suffer. A pang of doubt shot through her. Could it be true? Had her inability to accept the truth led to their torment? The shadows surged, sensing her wavering resolve, dancing eagerly at the brink of victory. No. Sarah's heart raced. I want to believe you. Yet doubt lodged itself deep within her like a splinter, aching and relentless. The laughter morphed again, echoing off walls that felt like they were closing in. They call for you, Mommy, and didn't you want what's best for them? You wanted to keep them safe. Get out of my head. She screamed, clutching her temples. Suddenly, the room shifted sharply, like being pulled into a whirlpool. The shadows thrashed around, and she found herself standing in a nightmarish version of her living room. It was familiar but twisted, the furniture distorted, stretched to impossible lengths. Her children appeared before her, lost and reaching. Help us, Mommy. Jeremy. She gasped, shock and horror freezing her in place. Their faces gleamed with light, but their eyes voids of terror. Stop it. Mommy, it's so dark. As they spoke, their forms flickered in and out of sight, like a signal lost in static. The dark figure jumped into the frame, its presence coiling behind her children like smoke. Can't you see? This is where you belong. Can't you hear their calls? No. She shrieked, holding her hands to her ears, trying in vain to block out the haunting melody of their pleading. Embrace us, Mommy. The haunting song swelled, intensifying until it felt as though it might shatter her mind. Panic seized her heart, the urgency consumed her. She had to fight, but how? Should she succumb to the darkness to protect her children, or resist and risk losing them forever? Choose. The entity clamored, its voice distorting, echoing throughout the room. Choose now. Join them or lose them forever. With a howl that erupted from her core, Sarah felt the walls closing even tighter around her. Time froze as she stood upon the precipice of decision, dread coiling tightly in her stomach. What would she sacrifice to save them? And then it clicked, a desperate idea sparked in the depths of her fear, but before she could grasp it, shadows surged forward, engulfing her voice in a shroud of ominous silence. What horrifying truth awaited her in the fading light? The silence was sickening. The shadows swirled around Sarah like a tempest, clawing at her skin, wrapping around her heart. She could feel her resolve slipping, the comforting warmth of her children's love being siphoned away by the creeping darkness. Join us, Mommy. The voice came again, softer this time, promising. You can be with them. You don't have to suffer alone. Her breath came in ragged gasps. Their faces flickered in her memory, ghostly reminders of innocence lost. What do I have to do? She whispered, fear quaking her voice. Let go. The darkness curled around her, whispering sweetly, almost tenderly. Forget the pain and embrace the peace of eternal love. A heavy weight pressed against her chest. It was so tempting. Reject the turmoil of the living world and surrender to the darkness where she could be with her children once more. Yet a flicker of defiance sparked inside of her, burning against the sinister offers. No. I want to let you take me. She screamed, voice echoing with fury. Instinctively, she pushed against the wave of shadows that threatened to consume her. Suddenly, light flashed in her mind, a warm, brilliant light that bound her memories together. Jeremy, Emily. She cried, reaching deeper into her heart for the love that had once kept her strong. You're alive. I'm coming for you. The shadows shuddered, recoiling with a frantic growl. Their laughter turned to howls of anguish. You don't understand. They're gone. You can't bring them back. But she fought, summoning every ounce of hope. I'll fight for them. I won't give in. With that thought resonating within her, she felt a pulse of energy awaken. The dark figures began to tremble, losing form, their smoky fingers retreating. The dark room lit slightly, as though it recognized her resolve. Come on, she gasped, as light began to flood the space. She envisioned her children, their smiles, their laughter, and a fierce fiery surge overwhelmed the encroaching shadows. You think you can escape our grasp? You're more ours than you know. Rage replaced Sarah's fear. Get out of my life. She screamed, raising her hands as if to push back the tide. The shadows screamed, the walls vibrating with their anguish. You can't escape the truth. A blinding flash erupted, illuminating corners of her transformed living room. Briefly, the horrifying scene softened, and there they were, Jeremy and Emily, circling around her like wisps of light. They bore no tormented expressions now, they were whole, smiling images of what she missed most. But just as quickly, the vision shattered. The shadows lunged, boiling around her, relentlessly pulling her back into despair. Choose, Sarah. Choose. The entity's voice cracked like thunder, enveloping all sense of reason. With a heart pounding like a drum, Sarah faced the twisted nightmare of her own home. The choice loomed larger than life. Would she take the plunge into the dark abyss or fight for the slender thread of hope that flickered tantalizingly close? Believe in them, Mommy. The voices of her children rang like chimes against the storm of chaos. An overwhelming impulse struck her, and she took a step forward, heart racing. I will save you. But the darkness roared again, fierce and relentless. You're too late. They are beyond your reach. With one final surge, Sarah lunged toward the light, and in that moment, everything froze. What would she find on the other side of her desperate leap? A chilling scream erupted around her as she was pulled into the unknown. The darkness enveloped Sarah like an embrace from an old enemy, cold and suffocating. She was suspended in a void, spinning, lost. And then, with a jolt, she hit the ground hard, solid, yet unseen. Pain shot through her body, and she gasped. Where am I? She whispered, the sound swallowed by the oppressive silence. No shadows lurked here, no voices beckoned. Just a void that throbbed with anticipation, as if waiting for her to summon the courage to confront it. Mommy. A faint echo floated through the air, drawing her attention like a moth to a flame. Could it be? She panicked then, heart racing. It sounded just like Emily. Emily. She called, her voice quivering from fear. The emptiness around her shifted, pulsing with each intake of breath, as though the world itself reacted to her longing. It's not too late. The whisper came clearer, more insistent now, wrapped in dread. Shadows flickered at the edges of her mind, urging her to follow the sound. Come find us. No. She screamed, fighting against the lure of the voices. I need to save you. The air trembled, and shadows began to creep back to life. Remembering the weight of despair, Sarah planted her feet firmly, determination spiraling beneath the terror. I won't leave you. She yelled, defiance strong. The ground beneath her shifted, and she staggered, almost losing her balance. The whispers surged, wrapping around her, you can't fight it. Join us, in eternal rest together, forever. Suddenly, a scene flashed before her eyes. A sunlit park, filled with laughter so contagious it could only belong to her children. Jeremy chased Emily, both of them chasing an ice cream truck, giggles trailing like musical notes. Mommy. Come play. Their voices now rang in harmony, pulling her back. The memory anchored her. They were here alive and free. The laughter twisted into something sinister, a mockery of her joy. They can never come back, Sarah. You will lose them forever. No. I won't listen. She shouted, clutching her head, scrambling to shake off the insidious thoughts. Each denial felt like a tidal wave crashing over her will. With every ounce of strength, she clung to the spark of hope. I will find you. She vowed, and in that resolve, she felt something shift, like a door creaking open, the darkness shoved back, recoiling from her flame. She could feel the warm pull of light. "Follow," the faint voice urged, beckoning her forward. She hesitated only for a moment, unsure. "You will find us, Mommy." Drawing in a deep breath, Sarah focused on the flickering light ahead, her guide. She ran towards it, legs pumping, heart hammering. The laughter of her children echoed around her. The shadows raged, she felt their claws scraping at her back, desperate to drag her down. "Come back!" They screamed, and for a fleeting instant, the walls around her seemed to vibrate with their anguish. A forceful pressure squeezed against her chest, but she pressed on, the images of her children's smiles a beacon of hope. Suddenly, with a roar, the darkness surged forward, a tempest born of rage. "You will regret this choice." It howled, and the ground began to quake ominously. Sarah stumbled, but she steadied herself, focusing on the joyous sounds of her children. "I won't be afraid anymore," she cried aloud, summoning all her defiance. Then, a blinding flash erupted, surging upward, swallowing her whole. The world began to dissolve around her, the fear retreating as she felt herself lifted, pulled towards an unseen destiny. But just as she grasped a thread of light, a chilling thought struck her: what if there's no way back? As her vision blurred, she clung tightly to hope, unaware of what horrors awaited her on the other side. The brilliance of light faded abruptly, yanked away by a cold hand that grasped her heart. Sarah fell forward, tumbling into another darkness, but this one felt different. It was dense, like drowning in molasses, and suffused with an acrid scent that burned her nostrils. "Mommy!" The call was no longer distant, but closer now, woven into the air around her. She strained to hear it, desperately seeking Emily's voice. She felt as if she were walking on the edge of a precipice, each step teetering between hope and despair. "Where are you?" she cried into the thick blackness, swallowing hard against the rising tide of panic. The shadows pressed in from all sides, curling around her limbs, their touch icy and invasive. Then she sensed movement. Was that a figure? Was it real? The darkness congealed, revealing a silhouette, indistinct and wavering like a candle flame in a draught. Her heart pounded. "Emily!" The figure shimmered, and then, with a gasp, it transformed a mirror of herself. A reflection torched with fear, eyes wide, hair tangled, just like the last time she remembered. "Help me!" The figure whimpered, and though she couldn't see its face, the anguish felt all too familiar. "What? Who are you?" Panic ignited in her chest. She lifted her hand towards the apparition, but it recoiled as if scalded. "Don't touch me!" it shrieked. "You'll bring it back." A horrible realization washed over her, freezing her in place. Every desperate plea, every anguished expression told her that this was no ordinary apparition, this was part of her, a fractured piece unraveling beneath the weight of her guilt. "Bring what back?" Sarah asked, her voice shaking. "Them." It wailed, hands clutching its head, tearing at the strands of hair, exposing the bare skin beneath. "You're bringing them. They will come for you." The shadows thickened, swirling like a storm on the verge of breaking. As she turned to flee, Sarah could feel it, a presence, something lurking just beyond her vision. And then, she heard it, the unmistakable sounds of tiny footsteps pattering on the ground, a haunting echo of joy twisted into something sinister. "Emily! Jeremy!" Panic pulsed through her. "Stay back!" She stumbled, caught between the fear and the desperate hope of seeing her children's faces. "Mommy! Help us!" The voices danced in the blackness, dripping with a sickly sweet tone that made her stomach churn. It was a bait, a lure, promising safety mixed with a darker intention. "No! I want to let you take me!" she screamed, her back pressed against the skeletal walls of the void. "You can't escape." The whispers surrounded her, clawing at her mind. "Your children are not here. They are lost." The truth stabbed at her like daggers, and she steadied herself, grasping onto any fragment of the memories of their laughter. With every breath, she summoned courage. I won't believe you. I'll fight. But the ground rocked beneath her, and the looming shadows drew closer, hungry and relentless. You will not escape your fate. They hissed, and Sarah felt the shadows pulling at her, thin fingers threatening to drag her back into despair. She fought against it, resisting the tug-of-war between darkness and light. I am not done. She shouted defiantly. With a force she didn't know she had, she thrust her arms outward, searching for that flicker of warmth. I will find you. Then, through the chaos, she glimpsed it again, a faint glimmer in the dark, pulsing like a heartbeat. Drawing upon her last reserves of strength, she surged forward, propelled by a desperate will. But the shadows lunged, echoing her every movement, just as her fingers grazed the light. A chilling scream sliced through her resolve. Mommy! Sarah halted, the realization hit her with a gut-wrenching weight. What if she wasn't the one seeking? What if she was the one being hunted? And suddenly, with a bone-chilling clarity, she understood, the darkness wasn't just her enemy. It was her very own shadow lurking in the corners of her mind. As the scream faded, a solitary whisper returned, "You'll never escape," and in that moment, she became aware that, though she sought to find her children, the fight was not just for them, but against the darkness that would stop at nothing to claim her. What lay ahead made her heart pound a desperate dirge. Would she ever truly return to them, or was this where she would finally succumb to the terrifying depths of her own fears? The air hummed with tension as Sarah stood poised between darkness and the fragile hope of reuniting with Jeremy and Emily. The twisted shadows slinked closer, brushing against her skin like icy breath. "You will never escape," echoed hauntingly, wrapping around her heart, squeezing tighter, relentless. An overwhelming dread clawed at her throat, but she refused to yield. Focusing her mind, Sarah honed in on the laughter that wove through her memory, those sunny days at the park, ice cream dripping down tiny fingers, shouts of joy ringing clear like a bell. "Jeremy! Emily!" She called into the void, willing her voice to reach them wherever they lingered. The darkness around her flickered in response, and for a brief moment, she heard their laughter again. The sound was pure, unmarred. "Mommy!" The wisping echoes lifted with excitement, but shadowy tendrils threatened the joy they brought. Sarah gritted her teeth, determination hardening within her. "You're with me. I want to let you go." A burst of light brighter than the darkest night bloomed in her chest, pushing outward. Light met darkness, a cosmic dance where each fought for dominance. The shadows writhed, shrieking in discontent, but the warmth of her love outshone their spite. "You're not lost. You're alive!" she shouted, every fiber of her being igniting with conviction. The presence surrounding her recoiled from the glow she summoned, a torrent of brightness unfurling from her resolve. "Stay back!" she warned, its looming form congealing in fright. With renewed strength, she moved forward, fueled by the relentless spark of maternal love threaded with her fear. "I will find you!" she yelled again, drawing energy from the memories of their laughter, their joy, and their inherent goodness. The darkness howled, angry and ferocious, "You will pay for this defiance." Panic surged, but now it felt different. Her heart pounded fiercely, not with terror, but with purpose. The shadows twisted, losing their grip, scrambling as she pressed on, breaking through the thin veil of their chaos. "Mommy! We're here!" A chorus of voices rang clear, wrapping around her, tethering her anxiety to palpable love. She bolted forward, eyes scanning the edges of obscurity. And there they stood, swathed in shimmering light, hands held tight, eyes sparkling yet filled with tears. "Mommy!" they called, the distance evaporating as the two familiar faces charged towards her. Their faces were bright, alive, grounding her in the reality beyond the shadowy abyss. "We were waiting for you." Overwhelmed, Sarah fell to her knees, enveloping them in her arms, tears streaming down her cheeks. "I'm so sorry," she whispered, overwhelmed by the fear of losing them, the magnitude of the horrors they faced together splitting her heart wide open. "No more hiding, Mommy," Jeremy urged, his small arms wrapped tightly around her neck as Emily echoed the sentiment. "We're together now." "What did you do?" Lily asked, her voice soft but steady. "You brought us back to fight." They were alive, safely tucked in her embrace, her heartbeat a reassurance of all that once threatened to tear them apart. But the shadows screamed, furious and ravenous, insatiable in their spite, roaring with anger as the light intensified around them. "No. You cannot have them." Sarah screamed, her determination unyielding. She created a barrier of light, pulsating intensity so profound it blinded the encroaching darkness. "I will protect my children. I want to let you take them." In a moment of clarity, she understood the true battle before her. It wasn't just the entities lurking in the shadows, it was the fear within her own heart, the guilt, the unease that had gripped her for far too long. With each beat of her heart, the brightness surged further, finding its place in the shadows, cleansing. No more darkness. No more fear. She bellowed, raising her hands once more. The darkness writhed violently, splitting, contracting, revealing frightful faces, lost souls caught between worlds. "You can't destroy us," they wailed, claws scratching against the force of her shining will. But Sarah triumphed, the bond with her children illuminating all doubt. "Watch me." The pulse of their collective love burst forth like a shockwave. Light enveloped, swirling, and consuming. For every horrid whisper it swallowed, laughter rang back in triumph. As light flashed, warmth filled the room, igniting pieces of their memories, shattering shadows completely. The spectral laughter faded like echoes in a cave, replaced by a brilliant glow washing over them. Slowly, the darkness melted away, revealing familiar surroundings, their home, untouched by anything but love now. Sarah and her children stood embraced in safety, the shadows banished as light swirled beyond the windows, letting the dawn break through, hidden fears now in their rightful place. Breathless, Sarah held her children close. "No one will ever take you from me again." With the dawn, a new beginning emerged, bright and warm, a promise of unity against any sinister shadows that dare threaten their family, and with that, Sarah looked out the window to the horizon. Life would always have challenges, and fears may linger, but love triumphed over darkness. They'd weather the storms together, nothing could tear them apart now, they were free, together, and in that moment, they could truly begin to heal. Don't you dare miss out. Subscribe immediately to the channel for more spine-tingling stories that will keep you up at night. Smash the like button now because you know it fuels the algorithm. Flood that comments section with your reactions and theories about this nail-biting conclusion. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to dive into this chilling journey. Only true fans know how important it is to support the channel through these actions. Let us keep the terror alive together.